I really believe that we are like localized mammals, and we were not designed to know all of the horrors of the world 24/7 at all times of the day. So I have time scheduled when I go to my news apps. If something like news breaking happens, obviously I don't want to be an idiot, but I'm really, really careful with how that part of my external world
Yeah.
comes in. And it's the same reason why we make boundaries with parents calling us. And
Hmm.
it's the same stuff so that we
Yes.
can do what we are meant to do at the time that we say we want to be doing it. And it's more in our control. And I don't love the word control, but it's really more we're giving ourselves back the power.
Yes. And you're taking it back into your own hands. Welcome to The Change Effect, the podcast that helps you turn life transitions into powerful new beginnings. One story, one shift, one breakthrough at a time. I'm your host, Noelle Van, an author, leadership coach, and change strategist who spent years in corporate America helping innovators and leaders break through barriers to create success on their own terms. I now work with women to step into change to create a life they love. Whether you're putting yourself at the center of your own story, redefining success, or making a power pivot in your life, career, or business, you're in the right place. Each week, we dive into conversations with trailblazers, changemakers, and everyday women experiencing the ripple effects that come from overcoming the fear and doing it anyway, providing actionable steps, practical strategies, and a whole lot of fun along the way. So if you're ready to step up and become unstoppable, buckle up and let's get started. There's something fascinating about the seeds that get planted early in our lives and the creative instincts we follow before we know where they'll eventually lead us. Sometimes those seeds grow exactly the way we imagined, and other times they evolve, expanding into directions we couldn't have predicted at the beginning. Today's guest knows that journey well. Cheryl B. Engelhardt is a two-time Grammy-nominated composer and artist whose career has taken her across an incredible range of creative landscapes, from film and commercials to choirs, meditation programs, and global performances. Her work has been featured in Forbes, Grammy.com, and People, and she's performed alongside artists like Sting and Pentatonix, reaching millions of listeners worldwide. But what I love about Cheryl's story is that it isn't just about success in the traditional sense. It's about evolution. Over time, her music has shifted and expanded, moving from pop to new age and the ambient landscapes she feels most aligned with today. Her seventh album, The Passenger, created during a cross-country train journey, earning a Grammy nomination, and her latest album, According to the Moon, did the same, both receiving critical acclaim. Along the way, Cheryl recognized how her journey could help others and became a certified trauma-informed coach, helping her clients understand the connection between a regulated nervous system and bold creative expression. Through her mastermind program Amplify and her Rooted Results methodology, she supports artists in building careers that are not only successful, but sustainable and aligned. Today, we're going to talk about life and creative pivots, the power of nervous system regulation, and what it really means to follow the evolution of your work, even when it takes you somewhere completely new. Cheryl, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be talking with you.
It's wonderful to have you here, and I'm so excited to dive into your story because I feel like it has some twists and turns to it that are really interesting. And I wanted to just to start, maybe you could tell us just a little bit about where you grew up, and then kind of how your career has evolved or kind of got started to evolve.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an East Coast gal. I grew up in Connecticut. I went to college in Ithaca, New York, and moved to Manhattan soon after. But yeah, I was always a musician. I started playing the piano when I was really little, like 2 or 3. Was writing music, was always in choirs and shows and all the things. But I had posters of whales and dolphins on my walls. Like, I was not thinking I was going to go be a rock star or anything like that. And I studied marine biology during college, and my advisor was like, "Hey, if you take a couple extra credits, because you're taking so many music electives, you could be a double major." And I was like, "Okay, let's do it." But my first job out of after graduating, was scuba diving for the United States Geological Survey, for the government, basically doing water quality research, and that was interesting, but also not as glamorous as it sounds. And about 6 months in, we had a break. I think the river froze or something. Anyway, and a friend of mine who knew I wrote music said, "Hey, he was a web designer. He's like, 'Hey, will you come to Rome, Italy with me? I'm doing this website for a really high-end hotel that's owned by the Vatican, so we can stay there for free.'" and I need someone to help me like create some videos and write the music for like, the content on the website. And so I did that
Yeah.
for a month, and I was like, yeah, this is way cooler than this is way cooler than being underwater in neoprene 12 hours a day. So I went
And
back
what
to
an
the city.
invite. That's an
Yeah,
incredible invitation.
it was definitely the invite. I call it like the yes of a lifetime. It really was the
Yes.
first big yes that had a massive pivot. There have been a couple of those. And long story short, that takes me to my early 20s. And then I started getting jobs and internships and things in New York City and recording studios and advertising houses, and then landed a job as a tech. And then I turned composer at a jingle house, writing music for commercials that you see on TV. And all the while, like working on my own music and putting a band together. And I started touring on the weekends and doing the singer-songwriter pop thing for 4 albums over 12 years.
Now, what was your band name?
Just my name, kind of like Sheryl Crow,
Oh,
Sarah
okay. You
Grove,
were the
Cheryl B.
headliner. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And, I got a composer residency that in Greece that was really a way for me to do some experimentation. And I ended up putting out this weird sort of vocal piano heart. I did some studies on like heart rates and music and anxiety. And so I released this New Age album as my 5th album, Luminary. And that shot up to #1 on iTunes and Amazon. And I was like, am I a New Age artist now? And I started looking into like what the genre was. And I was like, oh, I've always loved New Age music. And I studied the origins of electronic music in college that are very closely tied to the development of New Age back in the 70s and the 60s. And I was just like, oh, I don't have to do a verse, chorus, verse, chorus. Like, I don't have to fit into
Yeah.
this pop realm. I could be weird with my lyrics or not have lyrics at all and bring in my orchestral training and strings or not. And I felt like I had so much more freedom once I really dug into the genre. So now I'm, my 4th and 5th New Age albums both got nominated for Grammy. So I feel like that was a smart pivot.
That is just amazing to me. And when I think about, because when I think of songwriting, right? That's a whole process.
Yeah.
When you create, like you put together your music, how is that different? Is it like you're writing a story? I know that sounds a little silly to ask, but are you writing a story with music to some degree?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, the lyrics definitely can tell a story. And I think in pop music and singer-songwriter and country, you hear a lot, in rock,
Yeah.
you hear a lot of that. Here's what the story is. Here's the feeling that we're amplifying. And I think there's a really distinct difference that I see as I write for New Age and ambient music, which is I like to create music that provides a platform for the listener to process whatever they need to process, to hear whatever they need to hear, versus, if you want to go listen to a sad song, you go listen to Sarah McLachlan's, In the Arms of an Angel, if you want to cry, like the music in other genres can dictate how you want to feel, which is so powerful and amazing that music can do that. I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to say, hey, there's so much stuff that, and this definitely coincides with my coaching training and becoming a trauma-informed coach and just working with clients for over a decade, seeing that there's so much stuff that we push down. And what if there was a way that just listening to an album or a track could help you acknowledge that in a safe space and see what you are maybe historically unwilling to see. And so becoming the platform to let people feel what they want to feel versus dictating how they should feel. Again, there's nothing wrong with either one of those, but that's the biggest difference I see in writing for New Age.
Okay, so, and this might sound like a esoteric question, but I'm going to ask it anyways, because I feel like when I think about orchestration and working with different music, and you said that it's a lot of like helping people to bring things up and out, right? To kind of access emotion. So when you're composing that or when you're putting together, and this is without lyrics, right? So it's strictly the music.
A lot of it is. A lot of it. Some of it isn't. But yes, for now, most of what I've been doing has been lyricless, other than my choral work, yeah.
Is there sort of a way that comes out, or is it more by feel for you? Like, I'm more curious because I've never been a musician and I don't, I've never written music. So how does that evolve in such a way that like you're evoking? Because I know that it would probably be emotionally you're attached to it as you're creating it, but like how do you do that purposefully? Does it just sort of come out and then I don't know. I'm thinking of like writing a book.
It's a great question. I really started to formulate like what this was when I did The Passenger, which was the first album that got nominated in 2022 or 23 for a Grammy, and that's the one I made on the train. And I had gotten on that train 2 weeks after my best friend and collaborator. We wrote a musical together. He had passed away from cancer at 43. And we were supposed to he was supposed to be my date at the Grammys. And so I still was like, I'm still going to go to Los Angeles, but I'm going to get there by train and just take this break for myself. And so and I brought my computer and this tiny little keyboard. So everything is synthetic. It's way too loud. I brought a microphone. I'm like, there's no way you can record sounds on the train. It's just so much noise. So it's all electronic music. And then I had a couple of friends later on, like play a violin or a little vocal solo. But so I have a couple acoustic moments, but really it's this electronic thing. So when you listen to it, it's electronic, ambient, new age. That's kind of like the categories. But for me, it was a grief album. I didn't set out to say, I'm going to write something so sad that when everyone listens to it, they're also going to be sad. I was like, I'm going to just see what comes through that I need to get out and like have some moments in space. And this album has so much more space than you can already hear how I talk. Like I have a fast cadence. I like to play fast notes on the piano. Like a lot of my pop stuff, there's a lot of stuff in there. And there was a lot more space. And someone not knowing that that's what they were listening to was like the space to let things out, wouldn't know that it's a grief album. And I've had so many people tell me that they listen to it when they're on flights and it calms their anxiety, or they listen to it with their kids when they're waking up or going to bed. And it's not about grief. And that was not, I did not want to, again, like I was talking about in a pop song, like I could have written lyrics about like how sad that was. And my dad passed away 13 years ago when I was still doing a lot of my pop singer-songwriter stuff. And people were like, oh, you're going to write the best songs for him. And I never did. They were all so cheesy. And there was one song on one of my new age albums, A Seeker's Slumber, that there are lyrics. And I found a recording of him. I was like reading him a couple texts from a song. And I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And I'm going to record it so I can hear it back later to see which version is better. And then I forgot to turn the recorder off. So I have him like having a conversation with me. And so I have this one line. He said, any way you choose is moving on. And he said it so musically and so lyrically that I was able to kind of da 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 da, and I created this melody around it. But I digress. That's the only song in 13 years that I have actually written out of, for my dad. And again, that song is not even a grief song. So this is a long way to answer your question. It's part just kind of what drops in, and it's a little bit of luck, but it also I think is what it comes down to is if I'm having an emotional experience, and I don't think it matters what emotion I'm experiencing. If I'm experiencing a big emotion, I think what comes out is something that will allow someone else it will be a catalyst for someone else to experience an emotion as well.
Of their own, right? That could be different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, because when I think about, like, I think of writing, and I mean, I have written things before that I've gone back to and thought, did I write that? Like, have you ever had those moments where because I mean, music is out there, right? You have it years pass, and now you can kind of look back at your work. Are there things or are there songs that you wrote that I mean, because I believe in that we kind of channel it. It's kind of coming through us. So
definitely have some pieces that I go back to, and like those are the favorites. There are 2 or 3 there's one on the Passenger album. There's 2 or 3 on A Seeker's Slumber. That was my second new age album, and half of it has lyrics. Some of my favorite stuff is on that album, but I'm kind of thinking that I need to do a follow-up to that one, because of all my new age albums, that one is my favorite. And I go back to that and I'm like, oh, there's something special here. And I wasn't quite sure. I wasn't fully like, I'm a new age artist now. Like I hadn't really grasped onto the identity. So you can hear the pulling from the pop pushing forward. And now I want to kind of reach back to that and be like, all right, now I know what this is.
Yeah.
And there are moments. And I knew when I was writing, I have one song from my second album. The album is called Craving the Second. And the song is called Keep. And it was my dad's favorite song. And actually there's a motif, little melody in that song Keep from 2007 that is in that Any Way You Choose is Moving On song for my dad. It's because it was his favorite.
Oh, I love that.
But that song, when I was writing, I was like, there's something special here. And it became my moneymaker song. Like it got placed on like All My Children and like all these TV shows and stuff like that. So it's funny that like the one that identified that I was kind of like, oh, that's a keeper. Ironically, the song is called Keep. So I kind of knew in the moment. I also got a lot of critique that the lyrics I literally heard the word esoteric. Too esoteric for pop, even though the chord progression and melody is really great in pop. Like I've heard all sorts of things, which is why, again, like that would fit perfectly in new age if it was produced slightly differently, didn't have like the big drums or whatever. So
But see, but what's interesting is it's like you're now evolving into, like you had that pivotal moment. And did you have a pivotal moment really that you said, okay, I'm now stepping into new age? Or did it just one thing led to the other?
There were a couple moments in that pivot, because that's a big pivot.
Yeah.
I think the first one was when I thought I was going to this artist residency to write choral music, to write text for some choral pieces that I was a suite that I was creating. And I knew there were 12 people and there was like a sculptor and I was literally an artist. So I was the musician. And I was like, oh, it's, it's this half abandoned mountain town, tiny little town in Greece. Like you have to take a ferry and a taxi and a goat, like to get there. Like it's just,
Yeah.
and when I got there, I was anticipating just writing text. So I had like journals. I brought my like good microphone in case I had a couple ideas or there was some sound. But they were like, and here's your room. And I opened the door and it was like this huge 2-story cave stone ceiling with a grand piano in the middle of it. And I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
oh, I have 2 weeks to and I recorded it and the echoes and everything in the room was so beautiful. And I was like, I
Yes.
will not be able to recreate this digitally anywhere. Like I'm going to make an album here. And so I scrapped the choir idea. I did it later.
Yeah.
And luckily I had that good microphone. And so that, like, when I walked into that room, that like, I know what I need to
Yes.
create here came out.
Yes.
And, so I did a lot of like singing. There are also so many stray dogs. So I was doing these like, woo, like really high things. And I would have to wait for the dogs to stop responding at night.
Love
Like,
that.
oh, like I think there's actually one was like left in, way in the background. But so that
Oh
was,
my
I
God.
was like, I don't need lyrics for this. I wanna translate, like, what's in this room, and,
That's like the universe handing that to you on a platter. Like,
yeah,
here you go. And by the way, acoustically, beautiful room and
yes.
space, you know?
Yeah, and I'm redoing my studio right now actually in my house, and, that room is, like, a very big like, we're gonna do one wall is gonna be this kind of, like, faux stone kind of to
Oh, I love
emulate
it.
that. Like, a friend of mine was like, "Why don't you just try to recreate that room that, like, got you started?" I was like, "That is true." But the second pivot
That's
moment of
amazing.
that new age journey was, like that was, like, when I was like, "All right, let's" and I didn't say I need to write something new age. I was like, "I need to write something special here. I wanna play with every song is 6 minutes on that album, Luminary is the name of the album, and they all start off with, like, a little tension, a little, like, minor, a little darker, a little complicated, and they all either slow down or turn to happier. So I was like, what if you caught someone in the middle of an anxiety attack and, like, listening to calm music doesn't help because they're already racing. What if you could race with them and then latch on and slow down together? And so that's what
Oh,
every
I
track
love
on
it.
that album does. So that was more of the experiential motivation. I wasn't thinking genres. I was thinking,
Mhm.
how can this do something for someone in a moment? And then when I logged on after it went live a couple months later after I mixed it and everything, and I saw that it was number one on iTunes and Amazon and Bandcamp and all these
It's
platforms, which
amazing.
I had never experienced as a pop artist because, you're going up against Taylor Swift and all the other, like, huge
Right? Yeah.
artists in several crossover genres. That was like a, "Oh my gosh, this feels really like people are buying this. People I don't know are buying this. Like, my fans are
Yes.
buying this," even though I pivoted and I was so nervous that they were gonna be like, "Oh, we only follow you because of your pop stuff." And
Right, which is so not
yeah, which
true.
is so silly because I'm like, shame on me for thinking that my fans only listen to one kind of music, right? Like, of
Right,
course
right.
they're and that they're not there just that they're only there for the music, and it hasn't been years and years of me cultivating relationships with them. So,
Yes,
of course, they're
yes.
gonna stick around. So, I was like, "Hey, I'm pivoting to new age," and I was like, click send on that email to my and they were like, "Okay, cool. When does it come out?" Like, so it's
Oh,
just
I love
amazing.
it.
So that was another big pivot to see. I think success kind of begets success, and so it
Yes,
helped that snowball effect of being like, "Hey, like, you're onto something here."
yes.
And that was a really cool way to create and to process, and, spaces and environments really are special. Is also way less expensive than going to a recording studio and paying a bunch of people, and, I mixed
Right.
everything myself. Like, I really found my skills inside of creating a record, in that way.
That is amazing. Okay, so when I think of the backbone of what you do, which is about helping in your coaching work, like how did that kind of cross over? So when you were saying you started doing some of the album that you made that was really for a purpose, right? Had you already had sort of the inkling that you wanted to do coaching work? How did that kind of intersect with your
Oh,
music?
yeah. That album was 2018. I had started
Okay.
my coaching training in 2008. So
Got it. Okay.
I had already been a coach. I had already had hundreds of, clients by then. I started my group coaching program, Amplify, in 2016, actually.
Okay.
We're coming up to the 10th, third It's the 30th of March. It was my very, very first Zoom call with a group, a small group, and that has grown and grown. And I went live every single day for 3 months during the beginning of COVID for
Oh, wow.
people. So it's that had already been going, and I had already like gotten sort of what my pillars and my framework that I coach from really well established. And so I already knew that connecting the dots between the somatic experience of stress
Yeah.
and results are they're interconnected, right? And there was so
Yeah.
much stuff about marketing, and you need this new app or this, you need to be on this social media thing in order to get better results. And it was only really recently when I was like, no one is connecting the dots in this. I mean, there are people doing it now, but like back then, it was like there's no one talking about how if you are feeling regulated in your nervous system, how you can actually get those better results. I don't think people that are afraid of being seen need a different kind of email server
Oh,
provider. It's like, oh,
right.
let's talk about that time
Let's
when you
amp
were
it
a
up.
kid.
Let's amp it up even more.
Yeah, let's
It's
talk about when
like-
you were a kid and you got seen and it didn't go well. Like that little
Right.
kid is preventing you from hitting send and like actually saying things. So it's all, it's all subconscious, but
Yes.
that was very clear to me already when I stepped into New Age. So it really felt like, oh, this is connecting, not that I'm trying to force the connection between my coaching and my music side of things. Like I feel like it's okay that they're two different things, but they're
Mhm.
more and more, there's more overlap, especially in how I work at both of those careers.
I was going to say, and tell me a little bit more about the Amplify program, because I know you mentioned it, and it just sounds fascinating to me because I know, and I didn't realize you had started it back at COVID. So this has been going for,
I
like you
started
said, it's
way before COVID. I was on Zoom with these guys well before Zoom was cool. Like,
oh wow.
yeah,
But the program has been in existence for 10 years, you're saying, right?
yes,
So
the program's in
since
existence 10 years.
okay,
We like amped it up in COVID just
got it.
because
Yeah.
so many, and initially it was really for musicians, and so many musicians perform live and make their rent by performing
Yeah.
live. So when all the venues shut down, like that
Oh
was a
God,
real
yeah.
like, so we did a lot of pivoting. I got a lot of really shy people to perform on Facebook and figure out how
Love
to
that.
ask for tips. So like 3 months and 6 months into COVID, people were like making more money than they ever had before because they didn't have the expenses of traveling and all this other stuff. While the music
Yes.
industry was sitting there being like, oh my God, we have to pivot and I'm like, everyone come on into this. But I've since opened it up more and more to creatives, creative adjacent folks.
Hmm.
And the retreat that I host, it was funny during COVID, after 90 days of going live with 60 to 100 people every day, there was the joke, oh, when this is all over, we should go camping together and we can call it Camplify. And I was like, that's so cute. I don't want to go camping with anybody. So no. But I was like, what about Ampla Mansion? And we go to a mansion. And like that became my retreat. So it became Ampla Mansion for the first couple of years after
Oh, that's
COVID. We
great.
like go to this mansion on this beautiful property and like it's a 4-day, like totally catered, like really transformational, like release stuff and then like figure out what you want to bring in now that you have the space. Like it's an amazing experience. And I 2 years ago started opening up to the public, and I had people at companies and arts foundations and solopreneurs and people coming. And I use all my examples from my own music career in terms of
Yeah.
the work that I do. But I'm like, oh, this is for anyone that's creating something from nothing. Period. End of story.
Now, is it mostly like nervous system work? Is it somatic coach? I mean, what does it entail? It sounds like it's a very creative, it's a creative experience to some degree, but like you said, it's not all creative
Yeah,
people
no,
at this
I
point. So
mean,
it's
we're not, it's a not,
creating anything.
we're not sitting there having songwriting sessions. There is an open mic night, like a sort of living room concert. And there was one person who's like, I do not have a musical bone in my body. And everyone gets 5 minutes. And she was like, I'd like to present what I do at my nonprofit. And we were all like, it was the most like awesome, way to kind of just like say, this is my thing.
Yeah.
So it was very cool. But yeah, so there is a lot of somatic nervous system work, but it's very cognitive. I am a thinker. The people that kind of get into my world tend to be thinkers. They might consider themselves overthinkers or type A or doers. And we have this hustle energy and trying to figure out how to get that to channel itself so that we don't end up feeling overwhelmed and have these big peaks and valleys of like crashing and then like all of that comes with that kind of person. And I'm not saying everyone that is that comes or that I work with is that, but that's kind of what I put out there. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let's talk about this, but then let's talk about it in a way that we can intentionally drop it into our body so our body's aligned. Because how many times have you heard someone be like, I know this is the right thing to do, but I feel really scared and I'm not going to do it, right? So like connecting those dots and
Yeah.
bridging the gaps between like what we know up here, figuring out how to drop that into the body so that we can get the whole being
System
online with
working.
our own
Yep.
expansion.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that. I love that it is expanded too beyond the creative world only because it does go to it just the example you just gave of the woman that was giving the speech. It's really about voice, right? Like it doesn't have to be singing. It could be
Yeah.
talking, it could be inspiring, it could be sharing something. So
Yeah.
I think that was so powerful that you said that because I was thinking that's the kind of thing that was probably the best thing for her to do is to be able to do that in
Yeah.
front of everyone and have everybody, like you said, just be hanging on her every word just as much as they
Exactly.
would if she was singing a song.
Because exactly, it's so supportive. And I mean, I think for coaches, for anyone that is creating a business where they have to show up in order for the thing to happen, that is
Yes.
creating something from nothing, right? And I think that's most entrepreneurs. It's definitely all artists. It's
Yeah.
definitely, but when you're doing that, you're making something, whether it's a program or a modality or a painting, and you have to, if you're not just doing it as a hobby for yourself, again, there's nothing wrong with that. But if
Mhm.
you're in this for a business for the long haul, it's like, okay, how do I get it out there, right? The influence
Yes.
out there. You have to talk about it. People are like, how do you market your albums? How do you market your coaching programs? I'm like, I do the
Talk
thing,
about
I make the thing, and then I talk about it. That's my strategy. Like, but if you have any sort of stuff around showing up and being seen, it's not going to go well. It's not
Yeah.
going to work the way you want it to. You're going to spin your wheels. You're going to be like, I've tried everything. Like that. That's another thing I hear a lot. I tried everything. Nothing works. Mm,
Yep. Yep.
yes, but maybe you're trying everything here, but we haven't actually healed this from this time that's underlying, unseen shadow stuff that's actually running
Getting
the
in the way.
show.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and have you found that, I mean, the people that you work with predominantly, and I know that it's artists now and it's obviously expanded, but did they come to you initially because they were looking to get their work out there? I mean, was it like,
A
what was
lot
the
of that.
initial, the
Yeah,
initial
I
draw?
definitely would joke with some of my clients that I'm a little bit of a bait and switch. Like I don't like you think you're going to come and like, I've had a lot of, success for an indie artist as a musician and so people are like, "I want what you have. Can you coach me to do that?" And I'm like, "Yes." And I'm not going to say, "Oh, we're going to do it the way I did it." But we're going to do the personal work so that you can actually hold the results that you're trying to bring in. So they might
Yes.
think they're going to come in and get a release strategy. I made an app for that. It's a checklist. It's free. Like it's called Releaseify. Like they can go download the app and like it tells you exactly what to do to release music and get it on iTunes and you know e- engage with your
Yeah.
fans in a meaningful way, all that stuff. But like, and I'll walk them through that for sure. But then they're like, oh, like the number of times I've had people be like, I didn't think I was going to cry on a session with you. And I'm like, yeah, that happens. Sometimes. When we're healing the stuff that's been blocking
Yes.
us, like it can be emotional. And that
Yes.
was what I was committed to. I saw so many like marketing guru, like music industry dudes, so many dudes, just giving advice and calling themselves coaches. And I'm like, you're talking to the symptom. You are not getting to the source of the problem that
Right.
is really the block that's going to have them you feel inspired for the moment while they're talking to you, but not actually be able to turn that into a long-term way of working, a process, a routine.
Well, and what's so interesting, what you just said was it brought to mind, like when you were saying, the social media stuff and the marketing and all of that, and when people are being told what they need to do, and then they're like, I can't believe it's not working. Why isn't this happening? And yes, it is an inside job. We all know that, right? At the end of the day, we all know that.
Right.
But when you think about society around us and this culture that we have now where everybody's doing, I can imagine it's like that. Well, not I can imagine. I'm part of it too, right? I feel it. It's like noise, 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 noise. And how do
Mm,
you kind of come back to center and
yeah.
like you said, if there's things that you're still trying to get through or over from past experiences, if you don't work those out, you're not going to be able to even show up fully. So there's this like, it's kind of one has to sort of happen before the next, but you have so much out there that's telling you that it's all outside all the
Oh my
outside
gosh.
stuff that
And
you gotta bring in.
I mean, yeah, it's absolutely like we are running on, or at least society tells us that we should be, I hate the word, should be running on all 900 cylinders, right? And then
Yes.
we've got all the other stuff that the world is throwing at us, right? If you are looking at the news ever, if you have a
Yes.
family, if you're dealing, like, there's all this external stuff that is getting thrown at us. And if we don't have the capacity to hold it, let alone create some boundary. Like, I have friends that they send me stuff that's happening in the world that's affecting their families or whatever. And I'm like an ally in a lot of different, like, in all this stuff. And when they send it to me on Instagram, like send me reels of news or like really horrific things, I have like a cut and copy. Like, I have my ways of making sure that I'm not an ostrich with my head in the sand. And it's not on
Yeah.
Instagram. My Instagram is for me to share my stuff with the world. So I have to be on there. I understand that as an artist and as an entrepreneur and as a coach. And when I go on there, Instagram's going to show me stuff no matter what. I would like to see
Yeah.
puppies. I would like to
Me
see
too.
people talking about what a cookout is versus a barbecue. Like, that's what I wanna be
Yeah.
watching. And so I curate that very carefully so that when I am sitting in, like, giving mode, I am not getting bombarded with stuff that my nervous system is not trained to handle. Like, I really believe that we are, like, localized mammals, and we were not designed to know all of the horrors of the world 24/7 at all times of the day. So I have time scheduled when I go to my news apps. If something, like, news breaking happens, obviously I don't wanna be an idiot, but I'm really, really careful with how that part of my external world
Yeah.
comes in, and it's the same reason why we make boundaries with, like, parents calling us, and
Mhm.
it's the same stuff so that we
Yes.
can do what we are meant to do at the time that we say we wanna be doing it, and it's more in our control. And I don't love the word control, but it's really more we're giving ourselves back the power.
Yes, and you're taking it back into your own hands versus it
Yeah.
just coming at you. But this is gonna be a tactical question, but do you seriously are able to filter, or are you saying that by the way that you respond to it, you're sort of teaching it to not send you as much of it?
Yeah, so if
'Cause
my
I mean, that's actually a really good thing to do if you
Yeah,
know how to do
if you
it.
click on something and watch something, and if you watch it all the way
Yeah.
through, the algorithm's like, "Oh, cool,
You're
you
gonna
want more of this." So I'm
Yes.
not going to be watching, like,
You're looking at
violence, and I'm
puppies.
not gonna be watching on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Specifically, like, on social media. Like, that's not what I've decided social media is for me, because I'm someone
Yeah.
who, if I had a choice, I would not be on social media.
Yeah.
And I understand that it plays a role in everything that I'm doing. So,
Yes.
and there are these, like, we can say, "Oh, no," and hold on. I have, like, 9 thoughts at once. I don't think that if someone really, really, really hates social media, if they hate it, I don't think that they have to be on it. Like, I don't think anyone should be doing anything for their business that they hate.
Right.
And that's not to say, hey, maybe there's an underlying reason, like that whole, maybe you were seen and it didn't go well, and so that's part of being seen. So there might be something to work through there, but there are ways to make it work for you so it does the thing you want it to do. So I just keep checking in with myself. Is this doing what I want it to do for me? Is it serving a purpose? Is it getting a message to the right people? And when I'm there, am I able to see the things that I want to see if I'm there to take a break, or is it hurting my experience
Yeah.
throughout my day? So
Like adding to the anxiety or adding to the yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And I'm an anxious person anyway, so I'm like, I don't need that. And I need to have the choice. So the choice is where the power is, right? Like, this is why people die and fight for choice, because choice is power. So when you take away your choice to consume and have coming into your somatic experience, your body, your mind, when you have the choice, you have more power. So
Yeah.
when you are bombarded with stuff that you did not kind of consent to because you weren't realizing how the algorithms worked, or you had clicked
Mhm.
on something you didn't really want to, I mean, that's where choice goes away, and that can start to feel like you don't have control. So we start to do other things, and then we have to do more things to get that control back. And that's where we get the overwhelm, because we're doing to compensate rather than doing to achieve something specific, right?
Yes. And I feel like it's gotten so clouded that the work that you do is that even that much more important, right? And to getting people into a space and into a even just a physiological space where they can take in what they need to and be able to have that discernment or that ability to create a boundary to leave out some of the stuff that they
Yeah.
know is going to amp up the situation. I mean,
Yeah.
I've learned that the hard way. I mean, truly,
Oh,
and
yeah.
my news intake right now is so minimal without, like you said, I don't want to not know something,
Right.
like I need to not have my head totally in the sand, but I also am extremely careful about what I put in front of myself in the morning, the things that I expose myself to. So I totally get that. But now, Cheryl, so your work is really important. And I feel like, I mean, I love what you do because I feel like you have these two, it's like the musical component and then the coaching component fits so nicely together. And I mean, you're on fire. I love this.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I
Well,
wanted to
thank you.
ask you, so of your two paths, or I guess they're kind of intertwined, but what's coming up next for you? What's on the docket for 2026?
Yeah, well, I just finished this album cycle, which is sort of what we in the biz call when you release an album and then you promote an album and then maybe submit it to some things. And that album, According to the Moon, got nominated for a Grammy, which happened in February this
That's
past
so
year. So there
exciting.
was a lot of
Congratulations.
there's so much stuff around that. So I'm coming off of that, and I am now just getting into finishing up some choral suites. I have a choral publisher, and they've been very patient. But I'm working on a whole series of music specifically for winter solstice to kind of replace. I
Oh,
have had a lot of
cool.
choir director friends say, "I'm so bored of my Christmas and Jewish music that we have to sing every year. Can you like write something that feels like a carol, that feels like winter?" And nothing against that, the lovely traditional
Oh,
music
sure,
that we
but
normally hear the time of
yeah.
year, but there's not a lot of secular but still winter songs that feel like they're honoring something, like they're ritual. So I've done all this research. So anyway, so I'm writing this solstice suite, and there a bunch of pieces are out already. And then, so that's kind of my musical thing for now. I know there's more ambient new age music coming, but I kind of was just like, all right, we just did. Let me take a quick break from that
Yeah.
and dive into this music that I love. I've got some collaborations on musical collaborations in that world as well. But yeah, and then I've got coming up is my May retreat, my annual retreat, now called
Nice.
the Rooted Results Retreat because we have expanded it outside of Amplify. It was Amplimansion.
All
And
right.
anyone that we have a lot of people that come back, and so they know that that they can call it that as well. And
Yeah.
that's middle of May. And so I'm always tweaking the curriculum, which it doesn't change a lot, but because it's been pretty locked in for 4 years. But
Yeah.
I'm always excited about where we do this. We do it upstate New York, and it's on a 60-acre farm. I mean, it's
Oh,
still a mansion,
cool.
it's gorgeous, like carriage house and everything, in the middle of a 300-acre state forest. So you have to drive through like
Oh,
forests,
gorgeous.
waterfalls, and like all this stuff to get there. It's so beautiful. So I'm just excited to be there in May. It's just
Yes.
the weather is always perfect. There's like streams and like there's saunas and like we do some cold plunges. You don't have to do any of the things that we do, but it's so remarkable. So I always get really excited in March and April leading up to that because it's something that I've tried to normalize. Like I don't look at it, and I talk to people about it. I'm like, this isn't a retreat. Like you're retreating from your life. It's like we
Yeah.
come here and we're like, all right, what works about this place for you? And for some people, they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize how many more trees I need in my life. So we're okay, get a little plant for your desk. Like little things
Yes.
like that to
Yes.
like, oh, community, or oh, this kind of like being really conscious of what I'm bringing into my language because we watch language a lot and how we talk about ourselves and what we're up to. And it's like, how do we normalize the experience here and make our lives more like this awesomeness rather than
Yes.
retreat from our lives, have a nice time and go back and forget about it, right? Or just look at
Yes.
pictures. So it's really like a normalization transformation weekend. And so yeah, that is what I'm so
And that's
excited about.
such a community of people, right? I mean, like you
Yeah.
have probably people, like you said, have come back time and again. So you know everybody that, I mean, not everybody, but you know people. You've got core groups that, I don't know. I always get chills with those kinds of experiences
Yeah.
because I
And they
think,
always we have
especially
an amazing
retreating.
support team and everything. So it's
Yeah.
like a family. We have the same chefs come every year. They cook organic. They're a French couple, and they
I
literally
love
yell at you
it.
in French when you're in the kitchen. They're adorable. We love them so much, and I will never not hire them. So they're coming back, and the food is amazing. We had this one guy, like total country artist, like dude with the boots and the hat, like all the way, like big guy, and he was like in the food form because everyone fills out preference forms for rooms and foods and activities and stuff. So I can really cater the event to that group. He's like, I like hamburgers. And I was like, oh boy. I mean, we definitely, we have meat there and stuff like that. But, and he said, at the end of this, he's like, I did not think I would like green things as much as I did. So
I love it.
we get a little bit of something for everybody, but
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
it's
And especially, I know that too. It's like when you have, food cooked well, which, you know what I mean? You're like, oh my God, I never thought that sweet potato would taste this great or whatever it
Oh my
is.
gosh.
But it's, yeah, yeah.
My husband comes because he's also trauma-informed coach. He's actually an international mountain guide, and he comes and does a really cool talk on risk, how it
Nice.
applies to entrepreneurship and creativity and everything. And
Yeah.
so he comes in every time he comes, like, we're always like, do we want to get a chef for like, what's our next like hire for our like, is that our, do we want a chef? Like we all, like 4 years in a row, that conversation happened a week after every single
It's
time.
important. That is
Yeah.
an important part of the experience. Cheryl, this has been so fun. I love what you do. I have already started listening to your music and will continue because I think what you're doing is amazing and it's continuing to evolve. So that's
Thank
really
you.
cool. But also just what you're doing with people. We need it now more than anything. I mean, I don't mean to sound like on a platform, but we do need we need it. We just need more people to be paying attention and being able to be really purposeful about how they're feeling every day because we can't rely on all the outside stuff to dictate that for us. We just can't.
Yes. Yes.
So Cheryl, thank you again. It was such a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun. This is great.
It has been fun. All right. Well, that's it for now. Until next time. Thank you for listening to The Change Effect. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed this episode, so more women like you can find us and take their next step toward creating a life they love.